And today we are honored and thankful to have Joshua Barnes, who is one of the most respected trainers in DI space in the world, here with us today. He's a founder of Process Mentors, a PMI authorized training partner and the first PMI consulting partner. He's a head of business agility practice and a value stream consultant supporting commercial, nonprofit, and government agencies. He's been coaching hundreds of teams and training thousands of people, ranging from executive leadership through agile team members. And many of us here in Melbourne have attended his training workshops. By workshops, I mean courses, proper courses, at the highest level of DA certification. So he's no stranger here to many of us. And make sure you say hi to Joshua, everyone, if you know him before. He's certified with everything DI has to certify: DI VSC, DI Coach, DI Senior Scrum Master, DI Scrum Master, and also the instructor of all these certification certificates. He's a LinkedIn learning author, Scrum PSM 1 and 2, PSPL, and a certified scaled agile framework, SPC. So, Joshua, it's a great honor to have you here today with us and take us away with MBI, the very interesting topic.
Yeah. Thanks, TJ. And thank you all for attending today. Yeah, the topic being on minimum business increments, and I'll tie that into from a DA perspective, what we call the idealized value stream. But I feel that the MBI is one of the most important things that has been added into DA in recent years, if not for all time. So let me go ahead and get my screen share going, and get right on with it. Yeah, it's TJ read the just a bit of a brief description of my background. So I've been working with Disciplined Agile since it was first released. The two co-creators, Mark Lyons and Scott Ambler, we've worked together and collaborated over about the past 20 years. So a lot of the work that had been done and the content that led into what was Disciplined Agile when it was first released, and then all the years that succeeded that. And the most exciting time has definitely been since PMI acquired the intellectual property of Disciplined Agile. And for those of you that might not know this, at the same time that PMI acquired Disciplined Agile, they acquired another company called Net Objectives. Net Objectives had a lot of intellectual property based on a tremendous amount of experience in the value stream management space. And so it was a great intersection between Net Objectives and DA, and a lot of the content that is on the idealized value stream and the minimum business increment itself came from Net Objectives, and it really enriched a lot of the value stream management content that was in DA prior to that time. So from an agenda perspective, there's really three main things that I'll cover today. I'm just going to cover briefly some context around what a value stream is and set a little bit of a foundation to then get into why minimum business increments are so important, what an MBI is, how it solves some very common, some very systemic problems in organizations, and then how the MBI is one of the things that really helps to bring to life what we call the idealized value stream. So to start off with, let's just kind of, from a definition perspective, right? I mean, a value stream, set of actions that takes place to add value to a customer from the initial request through realization of value from the customer, right? So we go from either a request by a customer or something a stakeholder has identified as a need or something that's going to provide value, whether that is an internal or external customer. So it's always important to remember that a value stream begins and ends with a customer. That's why we're doing the work that we're doing, and specifically, we'll get into some of the value stream management content from a development perspective, but we'll tie in both supporting and operational value streams and how we see value-adding activities that are often needed. The other thing is that organizations can have tens, hundreds, thousands of value streams, and then we can have value streams that intersect with other value streams that form a value network. So these are things that exist in organizations, and it's one of the ways that we're able to provide value to our customers. So I'm gonna start off with a really simple sort of example to identify some value streams, and I like to use this because I'm using one of Microsoft's value streams right now, right? Microsoft Office. So I'm running this presentation from PowerPoint. So the Office suite is a value stream, and there's multiple products that are within it. But I mean, Microsoft has lots of value streams, right? So Windows and a lot of the Azure products, and on, right? I could have gone and listed multiple slides worth of value streams. And then as we look at any given value stream, the products, the work that's being done to satisfy the needs of customers. So if we take a look at Microsoft Office and we look at the types of products that are within it, and again, if we're looking at functionality in PowerPoint, like a new slide transition, right, we might have a single team that is supporting PowerPoint, or we could have multiple teams, right? And multiple teams doesn't always mean we're taking a scaled approach, a team of teams approach, right? Oftentimes, even with sizable products and organizations, we've got multiple teams doing things, and we're identifying and managing dependencies and coordinating activity, hopefully identifying dependencies and managing them and coordinating activities. But a lot of what we focus on, and a lot of what agile ways of working, and DA is also included in this, has a lot of focus around a single product, right? If you look at the Disciplined Agile delivery process blades, right, the Disciplined Agile delivery process blade and all the process goals within it, a lot of the focus is around how a team is going to be able to enhance or maintain or make improvements within a single product. But what we're going to want to look at from a value stream perspective is now if we've got some functionality like spelling and grammar checking, we're in a situation here where that is shared functionality. So if we're going to change, or the very first time we might have had this functionality that's being released, now we've got multiple products and multiple teams that are needed for that enhancement. And that's one of the things that value stream management, and specifically the approach within Disciplined Agile, is trying to bring awareness, focus, and a lot of strategies for how we can do better when we're in these more complex situations. So the minimum business increment is, again, it's one of the most important things, and it's one of the main enablers of improving the flow of value, right? How we can uncork some of the value we can be delivering to our customers. So the definition and the purpose of MBIs is to deliver value sooner. And so it's a strategy for identifying the smallest amount of value that a customer can benefit from. But I'll kind of balance that a little bit. Yes, a single user story. If we have a low transaction cost, we're able, and maybe we're doing something like continuous delivery, where we can identify a story and have it meet a definition of done and release it. That's going to benefit a customer, or hopefully it'll benefit a customer. But what we're trying to do with MBIs is looking at the smallest thing that we can do that is typically going to be something like a feature level or a capability of something new we're providing to our customers. So it's a container, and it's intended to bridge the communication throughout the value stream. So we have our business side of the value stream, and that's where we're making portfolio investment types of decisions, right? What are some of the things that we should be potentially doing next, right? What's the highest value things we can do? And then we have the implementation side of our value stream, which is looking at the amount of capacity we have for those value-adding activities, and how can we identify that smallest thing we can do that's going to be valuable, but how can we make sure we're managing communication? So it includes everything that we need to do this work. A lot of focus we find when we're identifying work is, again, from an IT perspective, is the development value stream. But the minimum business increment, again, as a strategy, as a communication vehicle, also includes identifying supporting value stream activities, things like legal and marketing and procurement and maybe vendor management, possibly human resources, right? The things that are needed, if we need a marketing campaign or we need some level of support from marketing, we need to make sure that we're identifying that at the same time we're identifying things that we'd be doing from a development value stream from an IT perspective, as well as the operational value stream. Now, this isn't the operational support like IT operations that is just going to help make sure that these products are up and running the way that they should. This is the actual operations part that is supporting our customers. So almost always there's going to be some, even if it's a very small amount of work from an operational value stream perspective. But there are times that I'm gonna use an example that had a bit of complexity with it that shows quite a bit of supporting and operational value stream activities that were needed. So focus is on what the smallest next thing we can do that provides value to a customer, ensures completeness to deliver that value. Again, it's everything that is needed, not just development. Easier to sequence the work as the identified increments are the smallest thing we can do. So we can size them, we can plan for them. We're able to do all of the things that are going to help us really understand what it's going to take to get that work done. And this ties into the capacity. So this is more of the program management look within our implementation side of our value stream and providing clarity on what to align around. So if we've got, investment pillars, we have strategic objectives, the strategic objectives being, broken down into something like initiatives. This is a technique, an opportunity to be able to have, very good alignment to the strategies in the organization for things that are again, going to be valuable for us to do. So I'm going to focus a bit on the development value stream just because the graphics would get very complicated, but I'll tie in the other two value streams again, the supporting and the operational value stream. And I want to start off by covering one of the very common problems that organizations are faced with that MBIs can help solve. So we still see in organizations, especially public traded organizations, we've got these annual budgeting processes, right? So we get, towards the end of the current year, and we're going to be taking a look, and again, the value stream that I'm going to use as an example was based off of a real customer. So it was a large global product company. And this particular value stream focused on direct-to-consumer sales. So we had a direct-to-consumer sales portal, and we had a marketing platform, inventory management, fulfillment, and then an innovation platform. And what we would see is all throughout the year, ideas come up, right? Whether, again, it's a request from a stakeholder, a request from a customer, it's something that a stakeholder has identified. And throughout the year, then these things get aggregated into business cases or potentially project charters or some communication vehicle that's going to get submitted into this annual budgeting process where they're going to be competing for next year's budget. And oftentimes our stakeholders are going to want to make sure that they get at least the amount of budget that they had last year, if not getting even more budget. So unfortunately, what we find is we end up with a bunch of projects, right? Projects that have been approved. We've got an allocation or a set aside of the funding, expectations that have been set, and so we have some big projects and some small ones, and just again maybe a smattering of size of projects. And then what happens is we get into the new year. Well, projects get kicked off, right? A lot of times we'll get into that January, February timeframe, and it's like, 100 projects have been kicked off, and stakeholders are happy. They might not be happy they're not going to get anything for a while, but at least if their project was started, at some point they're going to get something. But here's one of the problems, right? And I use my direct-to-consumer sales portal as an example. There were a number of enhancements, lots of features, as well as other work, right? So some of these are kind of like the big rocks, and there were some small rocks and gravel and bits of sand that were also part of this project scope. But for roughly 12 months, or maybe a little bit less than 12 months, a lot of functionality in the direct-to-consumer sales portal. But also, this functionality is very disjointed, right? It's very disparate, because we might have one feature that could stand on its own, and then another 2 or 3 features that would be needed to complete something from a user, a customer touch point perspective, or experience mapping perspective. And so we'd see that with all these, right? We've got a number of projects, right? And all these projects have lots of feature level requirements in the example that I'm using. But the challenge oftentimes, again, I'll take you back, that we might have, one feature that is kind of like the slide transition, or something that is very unique and specific to PowerPoint, versus spelling and grammar checking, which is, again, across all of those products. So if we were to, even if we were putting this up on a big physical whiteboard and had all these features for all these projects, and we said, look, here's a feature, right? This feature that's going to be, the 4th one we might work on. What is needed for that feature to be put into the hands of the customer and to get value? Well, there's 3 other features in the direct-to-consumer sales portal. But in addition to that, we've got something that needs to be done, an enhancement that needs to be made in our marketing platform. We have something in our inventory management, and we have something in fulfillment, as well as something that was coming from our innovation platform. So if we don't have all of this functionality that we can release, we end up in dark releases, feature toggling, aging of information, aging of functionality that's been done. We're not able to get end-to-end feedback from the 3 features in the blue, the direct-to-consumer sales portal, let alone how all this needs to work as information is being injected from our marketing platform and the innovations platform, as well as the integration in our inventory management and fulfillment system. So what can we do about this? Well, if we were to just say, this is, take everything else away other than what's absolutely needed for this functionality to be worked on and put in the hands of our customer, well, if we did that, that is what an MBI is, right? So for a customer to be able to interact with this and get some value, all these things have to be done. So this is an example of what I would consider a very complex MBI, because this is one that has multiple products, multiple teams involved in doing it. We could have had a single feature from direct-to-consumer sales portal, the one there in the blue, that one team could have worked on, got to, met the definition of done, put into the hands of the operational value stream, and therefore into the hands of our customers. So these are going to kind of vary in size and complexity, a lot like stories, right? User stories on a product backlog, right? We might have a user story that is sized as a 3 for a particular team. And we might have a user story that's a 13 or a 20, something, the largest that they might be able to do within a particular time frame. If we're using an iterative approach, maybe 2 weeks long, or if we're using a flow-based approach, maybe a time span like 10 days or 8 days or 12 days, whatever. So that's what an MBI is. So one of the things that if we go back now, and again, this common problem and how an MBI can solve this is we might not be able to get away from annual budgeting process, right? And again, if we're not, having lots of onboarding, offboarding, hiring, firing, or people leaving the organization, or we're not making a lot of significant purchases, we oftentimes are going to have annual budgeting that's going to occur. But what we want to be able to do is make better decisions around the work we're going to be doing. And we wouldn't want to just fund like one project, right? The big blue project, if the other projects weren't funded, because that functionality in those other products needs to be done for a customer to be able to use it and get value from it. So at a minimum, one step forward, a good step, but a step forward would be that we are identifying in funding, approving and funding at the MBI level, right? The minimum business increment level, because then we have a good understanding of all the things that need to be done to get this MBI completed. And again, I've been focusing on the development value stream, but if this MBI, again, also needed value-adding activities from the marketing department and the budget and the capacity of the time from the people that would need to do that, as well as possibly maybe somebody from legal. Legal's got to review something or have some input to it. We want to make sure we understand all the things that are needed, because that's when we're making more and better, or I should say better informed investment decisions. So one of the things, again, this enables, if we take a look at, we could have an MBI like this, and yes, we would be able to deliver value much earlier, right? So we're reducing, right, the cost of delay. I mean, this is an economic decision. We are able to hopefully get a return on investment for this quantity of work that's been done, which is good. But we can also get feedback from our customers. Again, whether those are internal or external customers based on the products that we're working on and the type of value stream that we have, versus all the way out here, right? Because again, if we need Big Blue Project, direct-to-consumer sales product, to get their project done before some of that functionality or maybe a lot of that functionality can be consumed, that's a very long time period. So we get lots of benefits by doing this. So this is a great step forward, but another step, and again, this is a more ideal situation. This is something that we work with organizations to be able to move towards, is having a quarterly funding cycle. So we might have one or more of these more complicated MBIs, and we might have a number of small ones. We might also have innovation work, so we could have MVPs. We also, as we're looking at this from a value flow planning perspective and how we would do this quarter by quarter, again, we can look to also include the other classes of service, the other types of work. Again, additional stories that isn't to bring a new feature, a new capability into the product or products, but just enhancements to an existing feature, or paying down technical debt, improving quality, doing something that's going to keep us maybe in compliance. So we use a business backlog for this, and I'll show this a little bit more when I get into the idealized value stream. But in the business side of the value stream, and again, where we're making our portfolio management decisions, if we have a business backlog versus lots of just projects and business cases that again are thought of and submitted towards the end of the current year, we're going to make decisions for the entire next year. What we're able to do with this type of an approach, right, is more timely decisions. We are identifying by the definition of an MBI the smallest thing that we can do. So we're able to look at the capacity in our value stream. And again, it's development, supporting, and operational capacity, and make decisions, right? And again, we're doing smaller things, so we're going to get different types of feedback. We're going to see some movement in all the things that we're seeing in our business backlog. We might have 6 months worth of work. We might have 2 years worth of work, depending on the initiatives we have, the breakdown of those initiatives, the types of roadmaps we have, right? What types of strategic plans do we have in place? But in addition to that, we have the opportunity to identify new things that are going to be more important or be from a higher value perspective. We're not going to have to, try and reset expectations, because we're not setting expectations for an entire year and then going back and saying, oh, we have to start your project, and the big project is too big to fail, so your project wasn't started, we need that budget. That might have been something really important to do. We've got people that are expecting things to be done throughout the year. So this is an approach that really helps from a flow of value perspective. So the MBI, right, a strategy for identifying the smallest amount of value that a customer can benefit from. And this is the type of discussion we can have. Now, this is not something, at least in my experience, that is something we can kind of do over the course of a weekend or a couple of weeks in an organization, even smaller organizations, right? And one of the things that I want to leave you with that you could challenge, ask the question and challenge your stakeholders is, we're not saying we're going to give you less, right? This isn't a strategy to say, we're going to give you a little bit of what you asked for, and then maybe we're going to work on everybody else's requests, everybody else's stuff, right? But if we give you everything that we'll give you in this, 11 and a half month, 12 month long, sort of big project, right? Unless you as a stakeholder learn something else that would be more important. Again, we have product owners and product managers, so we've got the people that are making these decisions based on the feedback from the stakeholders. But what part of that big scope could we give you sooner? Right? Is there something we could give you in 6 weeks or 2 months or 3 months, right? Whatever that time span might be. And out of all of the things that maybe you're planning to do over that 6 month, 9 month, 12 month project, what are the things that are more important? What are the things that are more timely from a market perspective? What are the things that we want to get some feedback on? So with minimum business increments, again, just like user stories, we have things that are going to be less complex. Enhancement to a single product delivered by a single development team, minimal impact or changes to operations. Pretty low complexity. This is something that we might see that we could get done in a couple of weeks versus something that has a higher level of complexity. Again, multiple teams, significant changes to operations, supporting areas that are needed. One of the things I will say is we also have a lot of options in DA's value stream management approach that get into the value creation structure. So we have a focused solution team, borrow a team member. There's a lot of good guidance in DA for dependency management and coordinating activities. I mean, there's an entire process goal just on coordinating activities and a lot of options. But we don't want to be super great at coordination. We want to be using options to reduce dependencies and the need to coordinate across teams. So we do have lots of strategies and some new options that have been brought into DA and again, this value stream management content. So just one last look going back and in looking at some of these less complex. So again, this one where it's 2 features for, again, Big Blue project, the direct-to-consumer sales portal. One that's got a little bit more complexity would be a feature in one product and another feature that's required, in this case, direct-to-consumer sales and inventory management, that need to be done. So hopefully you're wondering, okay, how would we capture this information? All right, I'm starting to understand what a minimum business increment could be, but how do we capture it, and do you have an example? And the answer to that is absolutely. So we don't have a template and a prescribed one way of capturing this information. Again, that DA is all about options and flexibility. What I have found in practice in the company that I work for and the customers that we have, the business canvas format is one that really resonates well with most teams and stakeholders, just leadership team members. So I'm going to take you through a business canvas format and one that's got a fair amount of complexity. So strategic alignment, right? That was one of the things I started off with, one of the benefits of an MBI. So in this example, right, we had a number of strategic outcomes, strategic objectives that were desired by the company. And these are things that take a lot of time, right, to be able to realize, right? So this was on, the organizational roadmap. This particular organization was very data-driven, like a lot of companies these days. And they use compound annual growth rates, CAGR, as a way to express what types of outcomes that they were intending to have. So in this case, one of them for direct-to-consumer sales was 3.25%. And based on the size of this organization, that was a fair amount of increase. Number of initiatives. Let me step back for one moment. So strategic outcomes, right? There were a number of them. There were 10 in this particular organization. They were called big bets. They were big bets because the company was betting quite a bit on these things being realized. So the value stream for direct-to-consumer sales was contributing to 3 of those, right? So out of those 10, there were initiatives, right? Decomposing the larger outcome that was identified into initiatives. In this case, one of those initiatives increased ultra premium product sales by 48% compound annual growth rate over fiscal year 2022. And one of the minimum business increments that was identified to be able to do this was to develop a global ultra premium product microsite that had this very special VIP specific UX to it. So a little bit like the PMI.org site, right? There's a bunch of microsites that are there. DA is one of them, right? So you go PMI.org, you click on the upper left-hand corner, you can get to the DA microsite. That's a little bit like what this was. So this particular organization, price point of their sort of broad products was, a US dollar, $10 to maybe $20. These were the really expensive reserve items. This was a very different tier of products. So this was a 500 up to many, many thousands of dollars for a single product. So here's what was identified, right? Enhancements across all of these products and value streams. So we've got the features that were identified that were needed across all of the products. We also had a pretty significant impact to the operational value stream. There were new types of support for the customers that were purchasing these very expensive product offerings. And then the supporting value stream, there was a very significant marketing campaign. There were both a digital and print types of assets that needed to be created. There was a concert series that was being sponsored. And all of this is what was needed for this sizable and very complex MBI, right? A very new microsite, a new look and feel, changes in the way that it was going to be supported. So some of the other information that we might see in an MBI is what markets. So this was some core functionality. So this was going to be for all global markets initially, but there was a series of MBIs that had been identified for specific tailorings for the Asian Pacific region and the European region and Latin America and North American, right? All the global markets would have tailorings at some point in time, but the initial MBI was again this core, this global functionality. Which customers? We used personas. So there were a number of personas that were identified for the types of people that would be making purchases of these products and the type of look and feel and user experience that was going to be required. So here we're identifying, right, who's going to do the work. Right? Who identified those features? Who would be sizing this MBI? Well, we have our development value stream teams, we have our operational value stream teams, and we have our supporting value stream teams. One of the other things that's really important for MBIs is how are we going to measure them, right? So it's not just, hey, the project was completed, all the, we had the scope we said we were going to do, and we're within a relative time period of when we were going to get it done. And hey, gold star or platinum star, the development value stream, our IT teams got the work done. No, what we want to be doing is tying this into something that is measurable and something that is supporting the initiative that this MBI is helping to realize, and that initiative is then supporting a strategic objective. So in this case, increase ultra premium. This was a very particular tier of product sales by a dollar amount, and then increase net sales by these categories, right? So there were very specific things that we wanted to see when this functionality was put into the hands of the customers. And should we keep doing this, right? Should we do the tailorings? I mean, is the market that's expected for these really expensive products really there? Are there risks? Sure, yeah. In this case, there were. There was a dependency on another MBI, which was to take an existing VIP program, right, very important person program, and making it the very special VIP program. There was also, again, a risk with the operational value stream because there was a new role, a new titled position, very different sort of experience and product knowledge that was going to be needed to be able to support the customers of this microsite. And then we did also use relative estimating, again, very similar to what we would see teams doing with the product backlog, the business backlog. We want to be able to size the MBIs and also size the MVPs, the other sort of large potential work that might be on that business backlog. as an input to planning and an input to the capacity that we're going to need. And again, we use that from a decision-making standpoint. So the next thing is, adding all of the value, all these activities that we need, and it's not just the development value stream. So that's how MBIs solve the problem of these projects that get identified that don't take into consideration the other projects, again, beyond maybe the identification of dependencies. What we want to be doing is identifying all that up front, and we wouldn't want to have an MBI ready to be pulled into the work stream. Again, we'd pull it when all the teams that need to do their part have the capacity. Again, all teams might not need to start on day one, but across the expected time of what we would need to complete the MBI, they would need to be available. So how this ties into, from a DA perspective, the idealized value stream. So again, we're going to start and end with a customer. So this is what the idealized value stream looks like. So we have our business side and we have portfolio management. And again, we're looking at those big things, the strategies that aren't set as part of this value stream, right? Again, in this example, this organization had 10 of these. But these are the strategic objectives that this value stream, the direct-to-consumer sales, was helping to achieve. So one of them, again, is 3.25% compound annual growth rate that I showed in the MBI itself. So we have our objectives. They're broken down into multiple initiatives. One initiative was this Tier 9, this ultra premium product sales. Another initiative was kind of the other end of the spectrum. It was what they call Tier 0. It was also a new-ish type of product category. There was initiative with a number of MBIs to be able to get those products from a sales transaction perspective, as well as just the sales dollars, increased quite a bit to, again, help support that strategic objective. So what we'll end up with is a number of initiatives. And again, this might be 6 months. It might be 2 or 3 years worth of work. Again, that can potentially change. We would have our MBIs, right? So the smallest quantities of work that we can do to continue to help to achieve that objective. In the case I've been using, the initial one was this micro site. So that's what we would end up seeing over time. We have a number of initiatives for each of the strategic objectives. And again, a number of these business increments that we are planning to do. So the strategic objectives, they can change, but it's kind of rare. These are the big things that take a long time to see those results. Initiatives infrequently change. We should see some change, but it's pretty infrequent. Again, that's based on market conditions and again, what we're seeing from the work we're doing to put in the hands of the customers. And the business backlog, those MBIs, we should see change there. It's kind of like if you envision a product backlog and maybe a bunch of stories had been identified and stories are getting done, but there's new ones that aren't added and they're, the ordering, the sequencing, the prioritization of them never change. And then be a red flag. That'd be something we'd want to investigate. Same thing here with the business backlog. So as we're ordering the business backlog, and again, a lot of perspectives, business value, or natural order of what might be done, something that might need to keep us in compliance, a market we're testing, like all those types of considerations that a product manager would be making as far as the ordering of that. We have a discovery workflow, and that's where we get into the depth. It's kind of like identifying a story. I don't know what 5% or less of the level of effort it's going to take to get a story, implemented. And then when we go from identifying the story and it's, again, closer term to where we're going to actually be implementing it, well, we're going to, write acceptance criteria. We're going to have discussion between the team members and the product owner and maybe some subject matter experts from the business. Very similar to what we're doing in this space, this discovery workflow. It's those top ordered MBIs we're investing more time in. We're identifying those features. We're possibly doing something like customer touchpoint mapping. We're possibly looking at personas or augmenting personas that we've got, right? Any of the techniques that would add value to make sure we've got good communication and we have a good understanding of what we're doing. Again, some of these are going to be pretty straightforward, low complexity. Some are going to be more complicated. We're going to require a bit more time. So to just kind of take a look then, what happens is we have a definition of ready. We have what's required for an MBI to be ready to implement. And it's in this holding spot. So it's in this intake queue. And it's not pulled onto the implementation, right, the workflow to get it done until we've got the capacity for both the development value stream, if there is something from a supporting, as well as the operational value stream. And kind of what that looks like, just another, quick look, refresh of this complex MBI. Just remember, we've got a number of features that are across multiple products. We've got stuff that's going on from our operations perspective and from a supporting perspective. And these things are going to need to be done, right, in parallel. Again, they don't necessarily have to start day one. But what we would see is for this complex MBI, we have some operational work that needs to be done, and we might see them using a Kanban board to manage their work. And again, the same thing, we've got some backlogs, and hopefully we'd see teams using Kanban boards to manage their work, as well as what we'd see in the supporting value stream, right? So more complicated situation, we do have different concerns we're balancing and the value-adding activities that are getting done. All that from a program management perspective, right? All the stuff's got to come together, and then we can, again, release the enhancements. We're ready from a support perspective. Marketing campaign is in good shape and ready to go. Another example, right? The less complicated. We've got a feature or two that one team is going to be responsible for implementing in a single product. Minimal impact to the operational value stream. Again, whether it's just they absolutely need awareness something's coming, whether it's release notes, a little bit of training, whatever it is. But this is something, again, maybe we could do this in a couple of weeks versus the other one, which could take a couple of months. All right, so that's a very brief, very high-level overview of the idealized value stream and how this MBI, which really replaces the sort of the project construct, right? It's the smallest thing that we can do that adds value. It's the minimum, and we want that relentless focus on minimums. So how to learn more about value stream management. From a certification perspective, right? PMI has a fantastic course, the Disciplined Agile Value Stream Consultant. It is a 3-day course. Oftentimes, again, the company I work for, Process Mentors, we deliver this more often than not in a 5-day format. It is a very comprehensive course. We also have a value stream management masterclass. If you take in the DAVSC courses, Al Shalloway, who was the founder of Net Objectives and created the VSC course, he was the thought leader of Agile at Scale for PMI up until the end of last year. Al is now partnered with us, so Al and I actually deliver all of the DAVSC courses that I do together. Al and I also then have a value stream management masterclass. If you take a VSC course from us, you can take that. You can get free enrollment to that masterclass for an entire year. We meet a couple of times monthly. Launching this month, we also have, from an enablement perspective, a value stream management class. It's a half day to a full day. This is really geared for non-consultant people that would be going through the VSC course. So in an organization, leadership, product managers, portfolio managers, stakeholders, program managers, product owners, architecture owners. This is a course that is designed to take you in a roughly a day to learn the bulk of what we would see in the VSC course. We have an MBI workshop. That's a half-day course. Some of this content actually was drawn from that. We also have what's called an MBI builder, how you can identify the types of information your organization, your value stream might potentially need, because again, there's no one right size, one template, but we do have a builder that aggregates that via choices. We also have a value stream management assessment workshop and then a value flow planning workshop. So lots of options to continue learning from a value stream management perspective. And where can you find information about the PMI certification courses as well as the others? We have a learning platform, Success Mentors University. If you go to Success Mentors U, and if you use this code that we have here, and I'll provide this to TJ, 15% off not just the value stream management courses and workshops that we have, but any of the DA courses we teach, the SM, the SSM, and the Disciplined Agile Coach course as well. And with that, I'll be turning it back over to TJ. I know we're getting very close on time. I was watching the chat. I didn't see any questions, but any questions or any challenges? Again, this is more of an ideal state that we're moving to organizations too, but a tremendous amount of opportunity to really unblock some of the flow of value. Major difference between an MVI and an MVP. Why do we classify them differently? So an MVP is for innovation, right? That's in the definition that we use in DA is we're testing a hypothesis, right? Can we productize something? Can we monetize something? Can we deliver a very thin, very small vertical slice to see if it's something we should move forward with? In comparison, a minimum business increment is where we have an existing product and we're making enhancements to it, right? So that's the main difference. One is for innovation work to determine should we even move forward with something. MBI, we've got a product or products within a value stream and we're going to make an enhancement. Again, those could be small enhancements, could be more sizable enhancements. How would we start introducing the value stream and MBI into our organization? One way, take the value stream consultant course if you're a consultant. If you're at an organization, my recommendation would be to explore a little bit more the one-day value stream management course that we have. That is specifically designed to raise awareness and tie all this together. In addition to the things I haven't covered, how we do value flow planning, how we look at our value creation structure, how we assess our existing value streams, right? Organizations have value streams that exist. The difference between value stream mapping and an approach that gets the vast majority of the benefits of that, looking at the touch time versus waiting time, but in a much more succinct, much more quick approach. Let's see, time. So, and again, I know I use the majority of the time, but I'll say any questions. This is an area that the majority of my focus and both the training and the consulting work that I do is in this space. So any follow-on questions, by all means, send them to TJ and Jefferson and Yijun, and I'd be happy to continue to answer them. Best way to sharpen the skills on DA value stream after taking the course. So sharpening your skills or keeping with it, what I would recommend is join our value stream management masterclass as well as the DA VSC community of practice. The value stream masterclass that Al Shallow and I do is intended to continue to sharpen the saw, right? Kind of a reference back to Stephen Covey, and to introduce some of the just expanding things that we're both learning and feeding back into this. So both of those are excellent sources.
A question from me, Joshua.
Yes.
What's the uptake like in the industry of the concept? Companies who are using MBI to run their business, to improve their products and things. What's the uptake?
Yeah, so I can give a couple of examples. I have got one customer we've been supporting for not quite 2 years. Their adoption of Disciplined Agile, or just an agile way of working, it was based off of DA, but was targeted at improving the teams. And despite sort of the recommendation that intake management problems, challenges, right? Intake management challenges. There was a very specific reason why the leadership wanted to do that. They have moved to looking at the value of MBIs. They have changed their value creation structure. So TJ from the VSC course, they're using a focused solution team, which I didn't have time to get into, obviously, in this 1 hour. But they're moving forward with MBIs, but it took them a little bit to get there. We have another customer that we have started an agile transformation, again, based off of DA, and they're looking to move to MBIs as soon as possible. Again, that's actually one of the reasons why they wanted to adopt DA, and why they engaged with us. We have a few other very sizable organizations that, again, see the value in it and understand it. It's just taking them a little bit longer just because big organizations change in the way they make investment decisions. But what we're doing for them is we are populating an improvement backlog and sort of projecting, like, these are the things that are going to be needed to both be successful and have persistent success, that, you know, we're moving in the right direction, or hopefully the right direction. We'll know that based on results. But there are things that need to be put in place. So it's really based on context, context of the organization.
What's the barrier of entry for MBI? Can an organization just adopt the concept and start with something very simple? Let's say this quarter we are going to create 3 MBIs to start to see how we go and how we manage the MBIs, how we organize our teams. Can we take that approach?
Yeah, so I'm gonna pull this up just for a second while I answer that. So yeah, one of the things is, again, challenging what can we do sooner? And the technique that I showed with the projects and all the functionality, I mean, that was something I did at an organization about a decade ago, a federal agency we were working with, and it's just showing all of the functionality that they had in these projects. And actually, it was putting it up on they had, you know, whiteboard walls, and literally circling the functionality and saying, what's it going to take to get this delivered? Out of these things, what would you do for your customer if you could just, like magic, snap your fingers and deliver it? And then again, expanding. Okay, what else? Is there anything else in an upstream or downstream product that's going to be affected or need to be enhanced? What else is? And having that discussion, and oftentimes we can almost always find something we could move to the MBI approach, whether it's some smaller projects that haven't started, or we just have more flexibility. Some of the really large projects that are underway, much more challenging, right? But there's always a way, in my experience, that we can identify something to move forward with.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks a lot, Joshua, again, for your time and your insights. This is one of the most valuable, if you will, concepts in DA, and I would encourage everyone to at least give DA and MBI a chance to introduce themselves.
Yes.
And thanks again, everyone, for joining us at the lunchtime today. Most of us are from Australasia, so it is lunchtime, and I'm mindful of the time here. Let me finish by asking everyone again why you are here with us. Let us know how we are doing, and anything that you would like us to bring to you in the format of a seminar or a workshop or anything about the DIC, so that you would have more of outstanding, fantastic talks like we have today.